Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 476. I had the white pieces and played e4, and my opponent went for the Sicilian defense. So this gave me a chance after knight f3, knight c6. Of course, knight c6 is a very flexible move. You see it's the second choice here after d6, which leads to mainline positions. A lot of times the idea is to play the Sveshnikov or the Kalashnikov with a later e5. But, well, my opponent has a different idea, and this turns out to be a way to get into the accelerated dragon, which is right here, the move g6. So the accelerated dragon means that the fianchetto of the bishop happens even before the d-pawn is moved. So hasn't bothered with pawn d6. He's just going to get the bishop out there. And if the opportunity arises, black will get in the move d5 in one move and save a tempo on some other lines. So that's one of the ideas of the accelerated dragon. Plus, it's a good, solid positional way for black to play. And the most principled response, or so I've been told, to the accelerated dragon is to play c4 here, the Maraxi bind. If you play knight c3, you're just going into traditional lines of the Sicilian, and black still keeps open this possibility of playing d4 in a single move. So, d5. So knight c4 is a way to clamp down permanently on that d5 move, and in general set up the Maraxi bind and try and play this position. So knight f6 and bishop g7 can be played in either order here. He goes with bishop g7. I go bishop e3, defending the knight. It's now under attack from two pieces, so that's pretty much forced. Knight f6, well, so you have to do something is what I mean, and that's a logical developing move. And now knight c3, developing the other knight. My opponent castles here, but right here there's already an opportunity for a tactical shot, which is knight g4, and something I wanted to show you because, well, the rest of the game turns out to be somewhat one-sided, but the opening is interesting, so let's talk about the opening a bit. Knight to g4 is a main line, one of the main lines in the in the accelerated dragon. And you really have nothing better than to take the knight, but the idea is that you've distracted the queen and unveiled an attack on the knight on d4. So now this knight is hanging and you can grab it. And the point to remember is the best move here for white is a very funny retreating move, just bringing the queen back to d1, back to where it came from. But you want to chase this knight away from the square or put some pressure on it, queen to d1. And then the knight can drop back to e6, or black can even play a little more provocatively with e5. Let's see, is there any particular problem with e5? After knight e6, you can line up with queen d2 and just go for the typical trade of the dark squared bishop. Queen here and bishop to there. After e5, I'm not really sure what to do. Bishop to d3 is a book move, or knight to b5. It's kind of interesting. Yes, this knight is a bit of a thorn in the side, but I think you can later mobilize your pieces and try and trade it off. It'll take a little bit of work, but it gives you something to trade for. If this knight weren't here, then this d-pawn would be backwards, so that's something to play for. Anyway, that's interesting. Let's go back to the game. Let's see. Yeah, in this position, instead of playing that knight g4 line, he castled, which is the other main line. And what I see more often in practice, seems like people don't go for this knight g4 trick so much, but it's a tactical idea to always keep in mind. This knight move comes with tempo. At times it comes with tempo. Right now the knight is adequately protected. The reason it works here is that because the queen is distracted, not only is it an attack on the knight, but it removes the defender to take that guy. Okay, so I do the normal developing move, bishop e2, now trying to cover that g4 square, and then the other idea with knight g4 is to harass my bishop. And now black plays d6, giving up on his idea of pushing to d5 in one move, and I castle. So this is a very typical setup with the Maraxi bind, and normally black would continue with the bishop to d7. That's the top choice. My opponent played bishop e6, and that's a mistake. I should just take that bishop. For some reason I did not even think about this move, but well, like I said, I was thinking about the Maraxi bind, where you have a little more space as white and you want to keep the pieces on as a general consideration. But there's a concrete reason for taking the bishop, which is you gain the bishop pair, which is an advantage, and you make black's pawn structure a bit awkward. I won't say it's destroyed it, but maybe he can make use of the open f-file. But still, he's got this clump of pawns here in the center that are held back by 2 pawns. And it looks like that's a good position for white. So I should just go for that. It's an example of trading advantages. Rather than trying to keep material on, I can now trade some material and get another kind of advantage. In this case, the bishop pair and some pawn damage. So that's the way to play that. Let's see. He went bishop e6. Let's go to the notation tab right out of the book. And I went rook to c1. I wanted to protect this knight so that I'll be able to play the move b3 to defend this pawn more securely and just trying to keep this setup. He goes queen a5. I go b3. And he goes rook f to c8. And cancel that. The other rook f to c8. Oh yeah, you often see this in these dragon-type positions. After the queen has gone to a5, if this queen were on d2, there's sometimes a tactic involving knight to knight to d5 with the tempo on the queen, and then taking here with check. And the idea of moving the f-rook away is that after the check, the king can come back and attack the knight. So that's how that's how black escapes from losing material there. Anyway, that doesn't apply here, actually, because this knight is defending the queen, so there's no tempo on the queen. So rook f to c8 is not a forced move at all, but just an interesting way to play, bringing his pieces over to the queen side. And now, I'm doing okay here. I should just take the bishop. Once again, if I don't take the bishop, what else? What other ideas? King h1, h3, queen d3. Let's erase some of these arrows. Okay, so that's one idea, is taking the bishop. Another idea is just h3, controlling some more squares around the king. Queen to d3, developing the queen to a good square. I would be tempted to play queen d2 here, but let's see, is there a flaw with queen d2? Let's just take a look at it briefly. Okay, so here's a problem. Yeah, queen d2 runs into knight takes d4, and this is what I was trying to warn you about with the accelerated dragon. Knight takes d4. This one, knight takes d4. Knight takes e4 doesn't quite work there, I guess. Bishop takes, then knight takes e4. So he's attacking my bishop, which is defended by the queen. He's also attacking my queen. And if I grab the knight, he's just going to trade queens and then grab the bishop. So he's won a pawn. It's kind of a complicated transaction, but this is the type of tactic you have to worry about. And if you're playing the accelerated dragon, you want to look for these tactics. So that's a very interesting one. So it's what I find particularly interesting is that it's important to trade on d4 first and then take on e4. If he takes on e4 right away, which is kind of the more natural way to play that tactic, then you can escape with knight takes c6. So your queen is under attack, but his queen is under attack. And this all works out to being about even. Knight takes d2, knight takes a5, knight takes f1, king takes f1. Well, he won a rook there. b6 chasing the knight. Oh, but I've got 2 pieces for the rook. Bishop to f3 attacking his rook. Yeah, so he grabs the piece and gives up the rook, and then the material is even. Okay, so so if we go back to this position, if I were to play queen d2 here, that would be a big mistake. And the best way for black to exploit it is to first trade on d4. That eliminates this possibility of knight takes c6. And then, let's see, if I take with the queen here, is that a way of escaping queen d4? To knight to d5. And, oh yeah, and now this knight here is attacked 3 times effectively. The bishop, the knight, and the queen are all hitting that guy, and my queen has to move, so I don't have time to organize a defense of the knight there, so I lose a piece. Okay, so knight takes d4. I have to play bishop takes d4, and then now he has this knight takes e4 tactic, the one you always want to look for in the accelerated dragon, with the bishop coming here, the knight coming here with the tempo on the queen. and when I take back, he can trade queens and grab the bishop. So that's how that tactic works. Okay, pretty interesting setup. Anyway, that's kind of the last interesting moment in the game, although there's one more, so I will keep going. But anyway, I played knight c2, following up on this idea of keeping all the pieces on, just retreating the knight away from the square where it can be taken, but leaving this knight hanging, and he takes it. So let's go forward a few moves. There was one more interesting moment here. You see, he keeps the advantage all the way through, and then that if you look at that, this is the chess engine being silly. It says I should play queen c2 for a draw, but when I play queen c2, it's not a draw. It's black is still winning. I guess the chess engine saw a repetition or something and thought we were going to repeat moves there, and that would be a draw. Anyway, at this point, opening things up helped me a little bit, I guess. Right here, yeah, this was the other interesting point. I didn't want to trade queens, once again, trying to keep material on to compensate. But he's going to take my queen if I don't take his. I don't have any good way to escape the queen trade. I tried grabbing a pawn, but it's actually more effective to trade queens first. Take the queen off, and then grab the pawn. And when I do it that way, my rook and my bishop are coordinating to attack his knight. So he needs to save the knight, and then I can trade. Not that I want these trades, but the net result of all this is I'll be able to save my e-pawn. I can push on with e5 and try and mess things up. He's still winning. He's got two knights for a bishop. I have, some idea of playing on with an extra outside pawn, but still just losing. But that would be the best way to play. Instead, I grabbed the pawn first, and as we'll see in the game, he trades queens, and then he takes on e4. So I lost this pawn here, which I managed to save in the other line if I had traded queens. So that was would have been the best way to play it. Okay, so we continue on, and he just keeps his edge the rest of the game. And there's a nice finish, so I will show that. Right here, rook a3 check. So my king is getting chased around. If I go here, he will check and grab the rook. If I go here, probably king to f2 is a way to try to keep fighting the longest. But he's got an extra two pawns. He's got 5 to 3. He's got an extra piece. So there's certainly no way I'm going to win this game. But I found the quickest way to finish the game. A very nice checkmate in the middle of the board with d5. So that's how the game ended. The rook cutting off my retreat, the bishop cutting off all of these squares, and the pawn delivering the fatal stab wound there. So, also his other pawn is other pawns are guarding this square, so there's no way for the king to escape. So a pretty nice mating net there. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.